The suspect pulled the hammer away from Ms. Pelosi and violently assaulted him with it.
Why is our country so divided? President Biden, you got up to the podium and said you were going to bring us together.
Fox News is blaming Joe Biden following an attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband during a break-in at their San Francisco home. So in this video, I'll get to the latest details on that attack. I'll get to a couple of Fox News clips, and I'll also get to the latest trends that we're seeing in political violence. So first, this is the statement that was released Friday morning on this attack. So Pelosi spokesperson statement on violent assault on Paul Pelosi. So Paul Pelosi, of course, Nancy Pelosi's husband. Earlier this morning, an assailant broke into the Pelosi residence in San Francisco and violently assaulted Mr. Pelosi. The assailant is in custody and the motivation for the attack is under investigation. More on that in a second. Mr. Pelosi was taken to the hospital where he is receiving excellent medical care and is expected to make a full recovery. The speaker was not in San Francisco at the time. So, what is this all about? Here is San Francisco Chief of Police Bill Scott giving an update to this story.
At approximately 2:27 this morning, San Francisco police officers were dispatched to the residence of Speaker Nancy Pelosi regarding an A-priority well-being check. When the officers arrived on scene, they encountered an adult male and Mr. Pelosi's husband, Paul. Our officers observed Mr. Pelosi and the suspect both holding a hammer. The suspect pulled the hammer away from Ms. Pelosi and violently assaulted him with it. Our officers immediately tackled the suspect, disarmed him, took him into custody, requested emergency backup, and rendered medical aid. The suspect has been identified as 42-year-old David DePepe. Mr. Pelosi and Mr. DePepe were transported to a local hospital for treatment. This is an active investigation currently being led by the San Francisco Police Department Special Investigations Division. We are working closely with our partners from the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the U.S. Capitol Police, and our district attorney here in San Francisco County, D.A. Brooke Jenkins and her team. The motive for this attack is still being determined. Mr. DePepe will be booked at the San Francisco County Jail on the following charges: attempted homicide, assault with a deadly weapon, elder abuse, burglary, and several other additional felonies.
All right, so I'll get to more details on this individual in a minute here. First, and as well, I'll get to the Fox News clips on their take on all this. Of course, before more details came out, they were already forming conclusions. But here you have from CNN, with Speaker Pelosi away, there would not have been a security detail at the residence, according to one source familiar with the protocol. So I'm already seeing some morons online say, well, maybe this was staged because shouldn't there be security there? It's only there if Nancy Pelosi is there. So she wasn't there. Her husband was there. This guy was apparently able to get through the back door, sliding door. So carrying a hammer, and was apparently looking for House Speaker herself. A little more on that here from CNN.
I've just been told by a source who was briefed on the attack that the assailant who attacked Paul Pelosi was actually in search for the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. That before the assault occurred, in other words, before he attacked Pelosi, the intruder confronted the Speaker's husband in their home and was shouting, quote, "Where is Nancy? Where is Nancy?" So, John, again, this is from a source who was briefed on the attack, who says before he physically assaulted the Speaker's husband, he was clearly looking for Pelosi herself.
He's been posting YouTube videos concerned about the 2020 election, as well as the January 6th investigative committee, the House committee that's investigating the January 6th attack. There are some religious themes on some of the videos and so on he's posted on social media. And again, it sort of gives you a little bit of the picture of why you know, there is now this investigation that involves the FBI, as well as the Capitol Police and the San Francisco Police Department, as they're trying to get a handle on the motivation. It's clear now, certainly from what Jamie Gangel has heard from her sources, that the attacker went there looking for the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
All right. So there you go. This was a targeted attack. They were looking for Nancy Pelosi. If she was home, I would be surprised if the attacker would be able to get through again, because she would have security there. But this was a targeted attack at Nancy Pelosi. Instead, attacked her husband. Police were able to get there in time to stop any more damage from being done. But before I get to the Fox News reaction to this news, again, before the full story came out, this, of course, is perfectly normal for the right. So this recent article here from The Guardian, researchers at the Public Religion Research Institute, a nonprofit, found that 30% of Republicans agreed with the statement, quote, "Because things have gotten so far off track, true American patriots may have to resort to violence in order to save our country." And among Americans who believe the 2020 election was stolen from Donald Trump, which it was not, 39% believe violence may be required. So the attacker, of course, as you heard, falls under this. He is either a lunatic or a fascist or both. This is perfectly normal for the right wing. And it's important to understand that this kind of stuff will only increase. You're only going to see more of this. It's not just going to be on political leaders, which of course that will continue, but it's also going to be on average folks. And you're seeing that already with an increase in hate crimes since Donald Trump took office. But now let's get to the first reaction here that I want to show you from Fox News. And look at how they tried to frame the narrative already before they get all the details.
And she was not in San Francisco at the time, so no doubt she got a call, and it happened sometime in the middle of the night. We're going to get more details, we believe, this morning, and we will bring them to you.
So I believe, if I'm correct, Dana, their home is in Pacific Heights in San Francisco, which is, it's pretty high living, as you know, and they also have a home up in Napa Valley. This did not happen in Napa. It happened in San Francisco, according to the reporting. But you think about right now about crime and how we've been talking about this for the last 2 years. Lee Zeldin's a Republican candidate here in New York. About a month ago, he had a random shooting in his front yard where his two daughters were home. Point being, depending on how the circumstances of this story work out here, crime hits everybody.
Well, there was also remember the home intrusion and the robbery of the the candidate in Los Angeles running for mayor. Her name is escaping me at the moment, but she also, remember, she had the gun stolen from her home.
Yeah,
and we still don't have information about how that happened.
And 2 days ago, this guy walked into the headquarters for Katie Hobbs, who's running for governor in Arizona. He stole about $1,100 worth of computer equipment. They arrested him. So point being, this can happen anywhere. Crime is random, and that's why it's such a significant part of this election story here.
It's interesting in the statement, it said the motivation for the attack against Paul Pelosi is under investigation.
Yes, of course. Random. All these random attacks going on. That's why we brought up a random shooting in front of a Republican politician's home. This was a targeted attack on Nancy Pelosi. And the other examples they bring up there. So they bring up Karen Bass. You forgot her name. Karen Bass, her house was broken into. I tried to find details on that. There doesn't appear to be any clear details on why that was done. It could have just been for, what was in her home. But then they bring up Hobbs, which, of course, they don't elaborate. As in the Washington Post here, Secretary Hobbs and her staff have faced hundreds of death threats and threats of violence over the course of this campaign. Hobbs, by the way, the Democratic candidate here. Throughout this race, we have been clear that the safety of our staff and of the secretary is our #1 priority, Hobbs campaign manager Nicole DeMont said in a statement late Wednesday. Let's be clear, for nearly 2 years, Kari Lake and her allies have been spreading dangerous misinformation and inciting threats against anyone they see fit. The threats against Arizonans attempting to exercise their constitutional rights and their attacks on elected officials are the direct result of a concerted campaign of lies and intimidation. So more right-wing, targeted right-wing violence, and Pelosi just the latest example of that. Now let's get to the most unhinged perspective from Fox News. Again, this is before it was clear around the details around who actually did this and their motivation. But still, heavy speculation here from Fox News trying to set a particular narrative.
Again, we're waiting to find out what the motivation was, but there are two things that we could have on our hands here. You know, a crime situation that just happened more randomly or with some motivation, but wasn't really targeted at the Pelosi's per se. That shines a light on what's happening not only in San Francisco, but all these other cities. If we have a situation where this is politically motivated, you have to step back and say, why is our country so divided? President Biden, you got up to the podium and said you were going to bring us together. And that was one of the things you promised people. It's one of the reasons they voted from you and they backed away from Trump, because they did think that he was divisive. So why is this happening and why are we so polarized? It's a huge question right now.
I'm going to get to some data in a second showing who's doing the polarizing. But this idea that these people, like this Jan 6 conspiracy theorist that attacked Pelosi's home, these people don't believe Biden won the election. What is Biden supposed to do to reach out to them? Give Trump the presidency? And I bet you even if he did that, I still bet you that they would hate his guts. This idea that Biden is divisive is so completely insane. How often does he refer to Republicans as his good friends? He isn't doing nearly enough to actually fight them. But here they view him as divisive because he's occasionally called out Republicans that have done terrible things. It's completely insane. Look, I am a critic of Joe Biden for things that he has not given people that he promised, like raising wages. But to blame him for divisiveness, to blame him for this lunatic breaking into Nancy Pelosi's home and attacking her husband is completely unhinged. Now, last thing here, this is the trend in this political violence. So, number of Capitol Police cases regarding threats to members of Congress. So, the latest number here is as of Q1, which is above average. But you see here, obviously we don't have the full picture from this year yet. But look at the increase since Trump took office. So, threats against members of Congress investigated by U.S. Capitol Police increased by 144% between the first year of former President Trump's term and the first year of President Biden's, according to data shared with Axios. So, and in the first 3 months of this year, Capitol Police have opened cases into more than 1,800 threats. It is clear who drove this. You look at this data, you look at the increase in hate crimes, you look at the increase in radicalization on the right. This is a right-wing issue. And for Fox News to continue claiming this is random attacks or somehow it's Democrats' fault for not conceding their races and pretending they lost when they won elections is so completely insane. But this is the world that we are living in.